Anyone who's been around any homeschooling groups for any length of time knows that they're highly religious. But what if I told you that modern homeschooling wasn't started because of religion? What if I told you that modern homeschooling was started by secular, liberal atheists? Intrigued? Today we're going to talk about the brief history of how modern homeschooling got started in America. But first, hi, my name is Lisa. I'm a homeschool graduate and I homeschool my two kids. If you're interested in anything homeschooling, unschooling, or evidence-based parenting, feel free to like and subscribe and follow me on TikTok. So homeschooling is talked about today as a haven for religious conservatives, but it didn't start out that way. Everybody mentions how HSLDA shaped the homeschooling movement or modern homeschooling movement, but nobody talks about its extremely progressive roots. So the modern homeschooling movement started in the 1970s when John Holt, an educational theorist and advocate for school reform, argued that the school was creating an oppressive environment for kids to make them compliant rather than expressive and capable of critical thinking. He pleaded with parents to free their kids from formal schooling and follow a different method, which we know today as unschooling. Unschooling, if you don't know, just a brief description, is where it's child-centered or child-led and is based on their interests. So if they have an interest in, say, animals, then you as the facilitator, the parent as the facilitator, or the mentor can find resources to further that interest. And they also learn through everyday life things instead of any type of schooling, unless the child wants it. I'll make a whole video about unschooling and explaining that, but that's just the brief description. So after that, not too long after that, Holt's friend Raymond Moore, who is a Seventh-day Adventist, wrote a book called Homegrown Kids, where he pretty much argued the same thing. He said that early education was detrimental to children and how they should stay home until ages 8 or 9 and have a more solid foundation. Shortly after that, Holt and Moore began advocating for homeschooling, and even though it was legal in all 50 states, there was varying regulations from strict to non-existent, so they worked with the states to try to establish a more reasonable regulations for homeschoolers. Sadly, their leadership didn't last very long because Holt died in 1985, and after that, Raymond Moore was pretty much kicked out or marginalized by the new religious leaders. Moore pleaded with these religious leaders to work together as secular and religious groups had in the past, but in the 1990s that was extremely fractured as more and more homeschooling groups were explicitly Christian and excluded secular homeschoolers. While early leaders like Holt and Moore and numerous others were more focused on liberating children, which is how the modern homeschooling movement got started, the modern leaders have slowly drifted it towards religious reason. And to be honest, the original leaders aren't talked about enough. I mean, I grew up thinking that HSLDA and FPEA were both supportive of all homeschoolers and were both inclusive, and they're the ones that started the movement, which is just not true. The ones that started the movement were Holt and Moore and numerous other people that were focused on liberating children from formal education. I think we need to start moving that focus back to liberating children from formal education while working on making the homeschooling community a community for all homeschoolers. Every single homeschooler has a reason that they homeschool exclusive to their family, but no homeschooler should be excluded. And as an added note, before the video ends, I don't think we need to, I don't know if we have time to actually bring up how many times that forced conversion has been a thing throughout history, but yeah, we need to make homeschooling a community for all. Every single person can homeschool, and every single person should be accepted in homeschooling. We shouldn't exclude anybody, to be honest. Alright, well, that's the brief history on the modern homeschooling movement. If you liked it, then like and subscribe. Comment if you have any comments to talk about. I'd love to hear them. Next week, I'll be making a video on Florida homeschooling history, which is equally as fun. So, thank you for listening as my little nerdy self dives into the true history behind the modern homeschooling movement. And I'll see you in the next video.